Hello, friends. Hello, anybody who's popping on. This is Amy, VP of Conservation at Oakland Zoo, and you are tuning in to Cocktails and Conservation. We're getting settled. It's a Wednesday night in December, and I am glad you are joining us. Pretty excited. It's going to be a really special night. Our last Cocktails and Conservation for the crazy year that is 2020. All right. Again, if you are just joining us, hello. Happy Wednesday evening. I'm Amy. I am VP of Wildlife Conservation at Oakland Zoo. And I like to start all of these with saying something I truly believe, and I know you do too. What a joy it is to share this world with animals, with wildlife, and trees, and all of nature. It just makes living amazing. And it's challenging too. So we are here to look at some of those challenges, but to leave with hope, because there is a lot of hope, and especially when we have leadership from people like the person we're going to get to meet with tonight. So we have the honor of spending time with someone who has done so much in this world, who's discovered a species and helped start a park, and really has been an inspiration to people of Madagascar for 3 decades, I think. I'm so glad you're joining us. We are in lockdown here in Oakland, California. So I can't tell you how excited I am that I'm in lockdown with all of you people together, and we get to have a wonderful night despite. We're really glad you're here at Cocktails and Conservation.
You're watching Cocktails and Conservation, where we rendezvous with inspiring wildlife conservation leaders from around the planet, hear their stories, learn how they protect the animals we love, and how each of us can help them. With our featured custom cocktail, together we toast to taking action for wildlife.
All right, welcome back to Cocktails and Conservation. Here we are, where we get to meet with wildlife heroes from around the world. We get to listen to their stories. We get to join their solutions and have a refreshing beverage with people like you who want to connect, spend an hour enjoying, learning how they can help and how to take action for wildlife. I'm your host. I'm Amy. I'm the VP of Conservation at Oakland Zoo, and I'm so glad you're here. Cocktails and Conservation is our way to gather safely during these times, to build our community, to be with like-minded people, to support bars and restaurants in the Bay Area and other places they really need it, and to have a little fun and to feel hopeful. All right, we are traveling again. We're pretending we're traveling, and we are going across the planet, pretty much as far as you could go from Oakland to Madagascar. So let's see. Tonight, let's pretend that we are at a jungle lodge in Ranomafana National Park, and we're sipping cocktails. We're meeting cool people at the bar, and there's just every kind of lemur jumping over our heads. All right, if you're down for that, please say hello in the comments. We want to know where you're tuning in from. Maybe it isn't a jungle lodge, but where are you coming from? And yay, we're glad to see you. All right, if you're ready to get going and make your yummy cocktail, it's called Dreams of Madagascar, and it is warm and sweet and yummy. And we're gonna just put the, you're in Madagascar, Stephanie. We are gonna put the recipe in the link for you right now in case you wanna kind of go in the kitchen and be blending it up as we talk. All right, so while you're doing that, here's our question of the day. So Madagascar, if you look at a globe, I think it's as far away from us right now as you could possibly get. And yet the question is, do you believe that your actions matter? To somebody or an animal, a person or an animal 17,000 miles away, do you think you count in what you do or don't do every day? I want to hear yes, no, and why. And I want to continue to welcome people. Yay, so good to see people here, friends, Oakland Zoo staff, and volunteers and interns and teen wild guides, friends of the wild. You guys make this all happen for us. Anyone in the conservation or AZA community, welcome. Friends of lemurs, friends of Pat, fans of Pat, and Centre ValBio, friends of Kingston 11 Cuisine in Oakland. We're glad to have you if you're with us as well. All right, so without further ado here, I want to talk about Dr. Patricia Wright. I want to first of all say that this woman just landed back in New York from Kenya, trying to do her workout in the world, slid in just in time to meet with us. I don't know what time it is in her mind, but it really speaks to her generosity and her dedication to spreading the word of what she does, sharing joy and inspiration. Again, 30 decades in Madagascar. She's discovered a species, created a park. I went and looked at what kind of awards she won. Just too many awards. A lot of awards. We are so very glad to welcome, and somehow she is awake and joining us, and I'm going to find her on this, Dr. Patricia Wright. I'm going to unmute you and invite you in.
Hello, everybody.
We did it.
Yes, it's wonderful. You know, I just came in from Kenya, and I was supposed to go yesterday, but I didn't. There was a delay in the flight, and I just skidded in time. Nice to meet you today. It's really great always to talk about lemurs.
We are so honored you did this. You're amazing. And trying to understand, you were in Kenya trying to make your way to Madagascar, right?
Well, I left Madagascar March 20th, and it seems like a century ago to me.
Oh, yeah.
And they closed the airport that day, and they have not opened the international airport since that time. So I thought that maybe if I got to Kenya, that I could just slip across the border. It's about 2 hours by plane. You know, Madagascar is an island, the fourth largest island in the world, but they never opened the borders. And so I had a great time in Kenya, talking to colleagues and talking about collaborations in the future on conservation and seeing their conservation program. So I learned a tremendous lot, but I did not get to Madagascar to see those lemurs.
Oh, well, I'm glad you have your little lemur behind you, and I'm sorry about that. And wow, that's dedication. I'm glad you made the most of it. And what about, have you been in New York since then, and when you're not in Kenya?
Yeah, pretty much. I do Zoom every morning with Madagascar.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking to my team. You know, I have about 130 people we're working with in Madagascar.
Unbelievable.
And all kinds of education, reforestation, actually following the lemurs, doing climate change, all the things that we do. It's amazingly integrated and vast program. So I have to talk to everybody to find out what's happening. And so we do that every morning, but you know, Zooms aren't the same.
No.
Being there.
No.
So,
They aren't. They're helpful, but it's not like being right there. Okay, so this is a good chance for me to say, this is our night to really support Centre ValBio, and also I want to thank anyone who supported the zoo. The zoo has been so appreciative of all the support we've gotten. We're closed again, but we're going to open again soon, just when it's safe. But tonight is about Centre ValBio. If you are inspired in any way, there'll be a link in the chat to donate, and we're going to hear about everything they do, so you'll know where that donation's going. Also, this is the last Cocktails and Conservation in 2020. It's been an experiment. We've had a really good time with tech, and really love all our guests. And we're going to see if we're going to do it again. And you guys are going to help us by filling out a survey. So at the very end, there'll be a survey. You can let us know what worked and didn't work, and we'll see what we can do. All right, now back to Pat. So
yes, I would like to go back to zoo for a minute, because I want to thank you for all the help that you've given us. I mean, we've really been close partners since 2014. And some of your zookeepers and vet techs and came over to Madagascar, helped me to capture the shifakas and weigh them and measure them and make sure they're all healthy. And you've been helping so much with our education program and bringing conservation to the most remote villages. It's just been amazing, and I really wanted to get in this thank you to the Oakland Zoo because they've really helped a lot in
Aw,
Madagascar.
is anyone else from Oakland Zoo all choked up? Thanks, Pat. I have like makeup on. That thank you. We're it's just the biggest honor of some of the work we do to get to integrate with you. And I know that those zookeepers and the education staff that got to do that really just were filled with energy and inspiration to really understand what's going on out there. So it's our pleasure to be able to mingle like this, and we'll continue.
Good. Glad
All
to
right.
hear it.
So here's a picture that's just so cute of young Pat, and I was told to ask you, how does this picture and your beginnings connect to Jimi Hendrix?
Jimi Hendrix, yes. Uh, yes. Well, I really got inspired to do primatology because of Jimi Hendrix. And that was just a fluke because I was in New York and I always loved animals and I've always loved tropical animals. But I fell in love with a particular little monkey that was in a pet store. And that started me on trying to find out what primates do, their social behavior. The animal in the photo is a new species to science, and that I discovered in Madagascar in 1986. So
Amazing.
that was the first time that we captured this species and we weighed them and measured them, and then we realized that it was definitely a new species, very different from any other lemur that there existed at that time.
Incredible. And that set you on a course. I mean, to be from that moment to who you are now, um, we're I guess the next question, and I'm gonna pop up your continued love and ask like what's your guide? What's your guiding path is to all the decisions you've made to make you someone who's created a park and discovered a species and inspired all these people? Is there a north star to your path and your decisions?
Everything comes step by step, and we always don't understand where one step will lead.
Hmm.
And it's very important, I think, for some of your younger audience to understand that I didn't have any idea I'd be doing this when I grew up. Life has interesting twists.
Mm.
Uh, but the most important thing to me right now is that we will be saving these endangered species of tropical animals and non-tropical animals that exist in the world today and might not exist tomorrow. And so we have to do everything we can to keep them on this planet, to keep their habitats where they live healthy. And so that's my major focus when I wake up in the morning and it continues all day long, is to figure out how the best way is to save these endangered species of Madagascar. And we do it in a lot of different ways because and nowadays you got to include people in the equation, and people are very complicated. I've been studying primates for a long time, but the most complex are the people. Um, but I've been quite encouraged because we've had a lot of collaborators in Madagascar who've been really amazing, and I appreciate all the help that they've given. But look at that beautiful animal. I mean, those shifakas. Oh, I miss them.
Oh.
They're bigger than your cat, and they just go through the trees like acrobats, just jumping from branch to branch and making beautiful sounds. And they're beautiful, just
I want to
beautiful
ask
animals.
you a little bit about lemurs, but I love this photo. It's just this incredible moth. And I would also love to pop up a picture of just a lovely person from Madagascar and say, you chose this beautiful rainforest and these amazing people. Like, what of all places in the whole world, Why did you choose Madagascar, and what do you love about the forest and the people?
That's a comet moth to start with. Oh, what do I love about Madagascar? How there's so many things to talk about, but Madagascar was very special because nobody knew anything about it.
Right.
And it's an island that's been isolated for 150 million years, which means everything on that island is special, unique, and nobody knew anything about the interactions or what they did. It's a naturalist experiment because there's so many kinds of animals that never got there. That's that naturally, and the ones that did get there just evolved into these extraordinary creatures. So studying these creatures and getting others to join me and my graduate students and my colleagues and I really are having a wonderful time figuring out what these animals are all about and what their behaviors are like and they do all kinds of special things, because they've lived in Madagascar for 60 million years. That's a long time. So some of them are specialized to only eat bamboo that has cyanide. Some of them actually hibernate like bears for 6 months a year underground. Some of them, well, we have the world's smallest primate, and they're just amazing little creatures, and they're very, very fast, and they run for them. But all the lemurs pretty much live in forest, and there's different kinds of habitat in Madagascar. There's the baobab forest, there's the rain forest, there's the spiny desert. Beautiful, beautiful places. Each one so unique of those special sets of plants and animals that are found nowhere else. It's just a wonderland, and I hope that you all can come and visit.
Yeah.
I will. You just tell me you're from the Oakland Park Zoo, and you'll get VIP.
Okay, we can all do that. Everybody who's listening, just say you're one of us, and
Okay.
we'll be a community there together. Yes, it's on my list. The staff that's gotten to go there and do work, I so appreciate them, and have definitely been jealous, and hope that all of our staff has a chance sometime. All right, so
Okay.
you kind of answered it, but what are three things about any of the types of lemurs that maybe some of us, because I know there's a lot of lemur fans on this watching, what are three things we may not know?
One of the things that intrigues me about lemurs is that females are the leaders.
Oh, yeah.
Females have bosses, females are dominant. And that means dominant every female is dominant to every male in their species, in their group, or whatever they do. So that's really, really interesting, and you may not know that. And it's important. You may not know that there's 17 species of lemurs that have gone extinct, and those were giant. They were the size of gorillas,
What?
chimps, yes. The size of gorillas and chimps and baboons. They were all huge. 17 different species
Uh,
that live from the top of Madagascar to the bottom. And so that would have changed the ecosystem a lot. And
wow.
so I'd like to think about what they were doing with the habitat before they disappeared 500 years ago.
Wow.
Not too long.
Gosh, I can only imagine that. That must have been. I'm just imagining this giant lemur doing the hop across the. Wow.
Yeah. And the third thing that maybe nobody knows, I don't know, but the lemurs are beautiful. You can see they're always looking good. And how do they do it? You might wonder. Like,
Absolutely.
how they do it is they have a tooth comb. They carry their comb around with them and they groom each other. And so they always are looking fluffy and super as they are bringing their tools. Their bottom teeth, their four incisors and the two canines, are pointing out directly and forming a comb, which they use to groom each other. So that's an interesting
Wow. What is their secret? Now we know.
fact.
We need one of those. I love it. All right. So we're going to get a little, we want to hear all about everything you do, but we want to explore a little bit about some of the challenges. I'll just pop in a little visual for a beginning challenge, but yeah, let's take a few moments to talk about both the challenges to the lemurs and the habitat, and then what's challenging for the community and people, because this is all about all the beings that share this beautiful island.
That's right. Well, what's been happening for the last couple thousand years is there's been a tremendous people arrived 2,000 years ago on this island, and they brought with them fire, and so that they've been able to and iron, and so they can slash and burn. So this is a photo here of a rainforest that is now just wasteland, really a wasteland. You can't even farm it. So what we're trying to do, because 90% of the forest, the natural habitat is gone. I mean, it's like this is a major problem in Madagascar. And so we're doing is we're trying to find a solution to that. And so we're working with the communities to do reforesting, putting back trees, the endemic species of trees, the kind of trees that the lemurs are loving and eating. We're going to put those back, and we're forming a really major offensive to green back Madagascar, millions and millions of trees, so that those lemurs will have habitat. And you're saying, well, so the lemurs have habitat. What does it do for the people? Well, we've got a plan. Got a plan for the people. Um, Perhaps if you do any cooking at all, you realize that Madagascar vanilla is a very high value. It's the best in the world. And so, what we've also found is that vanilla is an orchid, and it grows really well on endemic species of trees in Madagascar. So, when we plant out those trees, we also plant the vanilla, which can then be harvested for it's like $400 a kilo. I mean, it's a tremendous price.
Wowza.
Yes, can become wealthy farmers instead of what they are now and just growing rice.
Got it. Goodness. Okay, so and then it seems like another back to the issues, because I really want to get deep into all your amazing solutions soon. I mean, is the population large and there's poverty, right?
There is poverty. I mean, that's I think it's the sixth poorest country in the world. And so that's a real problem. And so we have to figure out an economic solution that's going to save the natural resources.
Hmm.
And part of the economic problem is that they've destroyed their natural resources.
Yeah.
I mean, you need water to do just about anything, and we don't have that when you burn and burn and burn.
Right.
So
And when they're deforesting, is it for agriculture? There's also mining, and is it other countries doing that?
yeah, mining is a problem, of course. They have fantastic gems and minerals, and there's mining for sapphires and mining for gold and cobalt and nickel and titanium and all kinds of things, because this island is actually quite rich.
Mhm.
And so what we have to do is we have to regulate that mining. We have to collaborate with the miners so that they help restore the habitats that they destroy. That way it can be a win-win. I think it can be. It's just that conservationists have to put pressure on people
Yeah.
to do that.
I love it. I love how I would think in my mind, we got to get those guys, and you're like, no, we have to collaborate, and
Yeah.
that's what makes you you. All right.
Thank
We have a trivia question for people, and this is usually what we do before we go into our beverage time. And one of my staff members, Dan, let me know that there's a story behind your super cute logo. So some people know a little bit about this program. I thought I'd ask the trivia question: where do you think they got the idea for this logo? And you can take a look at it. And while you're looking at it, we're going to start thinking about watching our cocktail video. And while you're thinking about that and contemplating the inspiration that is Pat, I want to introduce this cute restaurant, very cool, in Oakland, called Kingston 11 Cuisine. They are Jamaican, California, super healthy organic food. They're a real centerpiece for the community. They do really good things for the people that work for them, that come to see them. So I want to thank them for putting together this recipe that is Dreams of Madagascar. All right, so we're going to say goodbye. Kingston 11 Cuisine is going to be up, and we'll see you on the other side.
Hello everyone, my name is Tiffany. Welcome to Kingston 11.
Today I'm going to be showing you how to make Dreams of Madagascar. So the first thing we're going to start off with is making some white chocolate hot cocoa. You're going to use 3 heaping teaspoons of this hot cocoa. I used coconut milk, but you're welcome to use any milk alternative. So I've already started making my hot cocoa. I just stirred the powder into the lovely coconut milk here. Once that's all mixed together, you're going to roughly use about 6 ounces of the white chocolate cocoa. So I'm in my shaker. I'm just going to pour. You can measure it out if you want. I'm just using a jigger here. So the next thing I'm going to use is some rum. I'm using Mount Gay, but you're welcome to use any dark rum that you like. So I put about a half an ounce. If you want it a little stronger, you can use an ounce. The next thing I'm going to use is some Kahlua, and that'll be another half an ounce, so 0.5 ounce. Then the next thing you're using is your rum chata. And I'm also using a 0.5 ounce of that. And just adding it all into the shaker. Once you have your ingredients in, you're just going to stir it in. Once everything is completely stirred, you can go ahead and pour it into your glass. And then I just use the rest of my cocoa mix just to put a little something in there. And next thing you want to do is use any topping. I used whipped cream. So I have a few things that I'm using. I have whipped cream, and then I'm using some toasted coconut chips. And also a coconut cookie. You can add any little twist you want to it. And then I'll be sprinkling a little bit of cinnamon on top as well. Let me get my whipped cream ready. I like to make homemade whipped cream. That's up to your choice. It's very good homemade whipped cream. I'm just dolloping some whipped cream on top here. Or you can get some spray whipped cream, which always makes a good effect as well. So as you can see, I have my whipped cream here. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon on top. And that's a lot of cinnamon. Sometimes you can't always get it perfect. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of my toasted coconut chips. Oh, well, this is the coconut rolls. I'm having bloopers right now. Excuse me. So we'll just put that in the side, so. And now here's our coconut chips. And there you go. And this is good for an after dinner drink, or just if you want something really sweet and kind of warm, but has a really kick to it. So it's kind of like a spiked hot cocoa. So welcome, Dreams of Madagascar. Hope everyone enjoys. Thank you for having us.
All right. Cheers to you, Matt.
Oh, looks so good.
So you've inspired a lot of things. Have you ever inspired a cocktail before?
No, I think this is the first time.
Hey!
So I'm really excited about it. And I will try it. Right. Unfortunately, I don't have the ingredients here. I just arrived back from Kenya, and there's my cupboards are pretty bare, but
Yeah, should have
it was
delivered you a
looked
nice
delicious.
beverage. Well, we're thinking of you. I don't know if I did as good a job as they did, but I do know I'm going to order online and visit them when they're opened. But cheers to you, Pat. You are inspiring us and leading the way. All right, so the trivia. So we had our cute little lemur-y looking logo, and people took guesses. So what is the answer? How is it inspired?
Well, we didn't know what logo. I mean, we kind of advertised amongst my graduate students, and they come up with all these logos, and then we realized that we live in New York, and the very person who designed "I Love New York" is a friend of Stony Brook, and so I went in. Which is where I teach at Stony Brook University. So I went into Manhattan, and I mean, he was such an amazing person. He just sat me down, and he talked about Madagascar, and he talked about lemurs, and he said, "Send me some photos, and I will come up with a logo, and it'll be free for you." So we have the creator of our logo is the same as the creator of "I Love New York" and so many other logos, and that was a gift to Centre ValBio.
Aw, that's amazing.
It was
That
a
speaks to, once you put the energy out there and you know your direction, the universe just serves it right up. Everybody wants to jump on that train. I love it. That's fantastic. Okay, so let's start exploring all the amazing things you do. And I'm going to start with this place that
Oh, yes.
it looks like a super mod futuristic castle from a fairy tale. Like, how can this be real, Pat? I mean, you're in the middle of the jungle and there's this giant, gorgeous, state of the art center. Like, how did you come up with this? Like, how did you start from that vision and get to that?
And it's not done yet. I mean, this building is done, but we're going to inaugurate a new building as soon as I can get there. But what I realized is that Madagascar is a very poor country, and they also have a very a poor opinion of themselves, and they always say, "Oh, we can't do this because we're Madagascar, we're too poor, but we can't do this." And finally, I said, you are not poor. You are one of the richest countries in the whole world for biodiversity. I mean, the fauna and flora of Madagascar is spectacular, and everybody knows about lemurs and the amazing things that are found in Madagascar. So I was inspired to make a building that would inspire the Malagasy to appreciate and value what they have. And so we built it over the rainforest. I mean, underneath there's incredible waterfall, not exactly underneath, but on the riverside, there's waterfalls and beautiful, beautiful forests, just lovely forests. And there's labs. We have incredible DNA labs, so we can do real science. We can study. We are studying infectious diseases. This new building that's coming up, we're going to have herbariums and insect collections, and we're going to have all kinds of new offices for the research scientists. The building that you see in front of you has a conference room that holds 100. It has dormitory rooms too. It's quite a beautiful place and very, very functional. We have another building that has a dining hall, and the dining hall and the kitchen are very, very important. And so our donors have been helping us, including the Oakland Zoo, to build up this extraordinary research and training center, because we have to have a training of the Malagasy, capacity building, we call it, so that the Malagasy will be able to study their own biodiversity and everything about the ecosystems, including the people. So we are training graduate students. We've had many graduate students already get their PhD. And so we work hand in hand, Malagasy and Americans together. And it's been fun. We have a good time in Madagascar. And part of the secret to conservation, I think, is partying together. Every time we have a baby born or a new building inaugurated, we can all get together with the wonderful music of Madagascar and dancing of Madagascar and celebrate together this incredible biodiversity.
I love it. It just seems like every day must be different there with students and researchers and
It was until COVID hit.
uh yeah.
Yes,
I want to hear all about that. But before we go there, I really want to hear more about the research end. So, like, what is a typical thing you guys are researching? And then once you find something out that's incredible, how does that eventually translate to help conservation?
right. Well, we didn't know very much about the whole ecosystem, not just about lemurs. None of the lemurs that I have at my study site had ever been studied before. So this really started with just finding out what they do, what they eat, what their social systems are, what their vocalizations are, everything. Just finding out everything we could. That was the beginning, and then we began to study their interactions with the environment. I have there's one graduate student. She graduated from Rice University with a PhD, and she is Malagasy. Just got a job at Berkeley, so
Yeah.
she so you should certainly meet her too next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, very very proud that she's an assistant professor at Berkeley, and she studies the interactions of the lemurs with the fruits, so seed dispersal and how the lemurs really replant the forest. Very very interesting story. So that's one of the things we've been studying. The demography over time. We have 30 years of long term data. So we have long-term data on the climate, on the plants and trees themselves, and the lemurs. But we don't have just one species of lemur. There's 15 species of lemurs, all in that same rainforest. So we're looking at the interactions between the different species. We're looking at lifespans of the individual lemurs, and how many offspring do they have in a lifespan. It's almost it's very interesting to go through the lives of the lemurs, which we've done with them. We're underneath them, we're observing them, and we're really understanding, the heartbreak of losing an offspring when the Fusa comes by and takes one of your kids. The amazing story of how they disperse and how they know their neighbors and how they communicate with them. And I mean, there's a million stories to discuss. It's fascinating, and that's some of our research. But we've also done research that's important, I think, to biomedical research. We've studied, the parasites of the lemurs, but we've also studied things like Alzheimer's, which they seem to get in captivity, lemurs, but don't get in the wild. I did a 5-year study of
Oh my
looking at
goodness.
the mouse lemurs get plaques and tangles in their brain when they get old and in captivity. But in the wild, we have seen no evidence of this, and we've seen animals getting old. So that's
Good.
another
Wow, that's
aspect.
extraordinary.
There's so much to
Wow.
learn about animals.
Pat, so I love that you kind of, when you see an issue in your research or with the people animals, you're able to come up with the solutions. But being there for 30 years, you must have seen some climate change issues, and that's something harder to control. What have you seen change over those times?
It is hard to control, and it's very sad. And that what is happening is there's longer and longer dry seasons. So as we all know, plants need water, animals need water, everything needs water. And there used to be about 2 months when we had minimum rainfall, but now it's increased almost double to 4 months, 5 months, and some years it's 6 months. So that creates real problems for the animals, because if you suddenly change the climate and all of your plants are so keyed in to sunlight availability. And so they may fruit and flower at different seasons if there's not enough water. And that creates problems because the lemurs have to have something to eat all year round. Can't go a month without eating. And so that's one
Wow.
of the things. And it has more impact on infant survival than anything. And we're working on that. And that's a solution that's pretty hard to solve. But what we've decided is how do you get rainfall? And you get it from trees. When you have trees, you have more rain. So that's why we do reforestation.
Well, that's perfect. Leads me into wanting to hear more about the reforestation. And I didn't make that connection that it actually really does help combat some of the global warming. Makes sense. But let's hear. I love that everything you do involves local people. So tell us about the reforestation work and how that integrates the community.
Well, we talked to the villages about the advantages of trees and the fact that they hold the soil down, they fertilize the soil, they prevent silting. We did a study where we showed that malaria mosquitoes are abundant in the villages and the rice paddies, but almost non-existent inside the forest. So once you have forests, you eliminate the malaria mosquitoes, which is another advantage. Malaria is a big problem in Madagascar. So we want to plant out more than a million trees. We want to plant out these trees all the way to the Indian Ocean. So we're up in the mountains, and if we can plant first along the rivers and streams, and make it all the way to the Indian Ocean, it won't be like one beautiful, pristine rainforest. It'll be a mosaic of forests and rice paddies and things that people can use, and making the forest something that they value and use. So it's not going to be exactly redoing the rainforest, but it's going to be creating a new kind of landscape that'll be more valuable for the people, and also the lemurs can repopulate.
Okay, that makes complete sense, but still is incredibly creative. Wow. And more about the community. I was seeing something called MadaWorks. What is this?
Yes, MadaWorks. This is a group of school children. MadaWorks is our project for high school girls.
Wow.
What was happening in the villages, and we knew this from our education programs, that girls would go to school until 4th grade. And then the family would send the boys to school after that. And why 4th grade? Because in 5th grade, they have to move to a different town to have a school. There aren't that many schools out in the hinterlands. And so we said, okay, we got to have girls going to school. Girls are just as smart as boys. And so we started this fellowship program. And I tell you, it is incredible because first of all, they have to apply. So we have to go into the schools and figure out who are the girls that are going to succeed. And then we bring their parents to the Centre ValBio, and we give them the fellowship. And the fellowship includes backpacks, books, high school tuition because they have to pay for high school, and everything to make them succeed. And our first graduate went on to nursing school after high school and is now a nurse. And so that was our first successful girl who went to school. But now our second wave of girls are graduating from high school and going on to be teachers and to be medical technicians, and these are people that would never have had a chance to do anything in life.
And to get to illuminate their talents and their things that they could give to the world that wouldn't have been otherwise is amazing. Well,
are so proud.
Yeah, we're moving fast, but just to go back to the reforestation photo, we had a question from Jenna. And that's just planting along rivers and streams create corridors for lemurs to travel.
Yes, lemurs have to have trees. I mean, they can go across a bare patch of earth, but they really, really live in the trees, and they're very happy to use these corridors to go along, and very often we have like two groups fighting, and many of the individuals move along the corridors to protect themselves, and they find out it's really a good habitat, and they stay. And then we have others just moving from one area to another. So different species travel at different speeds down those corridors, but it's successful, and I'm really happy that we can start to bring back the populations. I mean, for so many decades we were talking about, oh, we're losing another 1,000 lemurs because of deforestation, and we're losing another. And well, we're not going to lose any anymore. We're going to start to double their populations.
Amazing. And we know that, in all these countries with the different projects Oakland Zoo partners with, we know that the people need jobs. So they need to have their right livelihood. And I love that you work with locals to do all the tours out of the center, and that you were so creative that so the next question's around like, how are you guys handling COVID? I wish we had 4 hours, but we only have 14 more minutes. But we got to even be involved in developing these virtual tours. So you guys are just so clever. And just want to hear more about these. And can people who are listening participate? Are they still going on?
Well, the tourist guides, we have almost 100 tourist guides, and suddenly, boom, COVID came, no more jobs.
Yeah.
And it was frightening, because here was a successful conservation project. We're putting, 100 local people with jobs and being tour guides, and hundreds and hundreds more working in hotels and in restaurants and with the tourism industry. So what we decided to do is, okay, we'll do virtual tours. We'll Zoom in people in to the rainforest so they can actually see the animals. And then it was a problem with batteries. So we did some filming of animals first, and then we put them together with the guides, and the guides told you all about the animals. It's really fun because it's not slick. It's not David Attenborough.
No.
It's not like that. It's like real people telling you about their animals. And so we could send that around so that anybody that wants to book a tour can do it.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing was book my whole family. I come from a large family. We have 6 brothers and sisters and all their spouses and children, and so I just said, okay, everybody in my family is invited to come on a tour to Ranomafana, because all of them couldn't go before.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we had a great time, because it was like a family trip. We were talking back and forth to each other, we were talking back and forth to the guides, and it was really, really fun.
Because as much as I love my coworkers and I love my family, we've been meeting like this for months and months. So to think we could participate in something so worthy and add some fun and spice and interest to just one of our family gatherings, our family check-ins, or even like a team meeting, how fun. I love it. And I've done one, and it's just so wonderful. Who needs slick? You get to actually be talking to people from Madagascar and hear about their lives and their passions. So it's such a good idea. And then what I'm hearing is that Madagascar the United States was having its own problems, and Europe its own problems trying to keep up with solutions around COVID. You guys didn't have much, but then you just took the lead, is what I'm seeing. So I want to share some of this. What's going on here?
Oh, wow. We made masks. There were many masks in the country. So we said, okay, we can do this. So we have a women's weaver group, which makes scarves usually. And then we had one sewing machine, but then we decided we got donations, and we bought 3 more sewing machines. whole bunch of materials, and we set all of our staff together on like factory level making masks. We made 10,000 masks in the first week. Then we kept on working until finally the rest of the world caught up, and we did get some masks from the World Health Organization. But in the beginning, when over the first 3 months, we made all the masks for people, all of our staff, and we were able to raise enough money to keep all of our staff in salaries. And that's the thing that I worried so much about. But then we also made sanitizer, and sanitizer, of course, as you know, is like alcohol. Now, Madagascar makes some pretty good moonshine.
Oh,
We went to the village that made the best moonshine, bought all the moonshine up and transformed it into hand sanitizer. And then
for a cocktail show.
yeah, we set up stations in all the towns and all the villages so that they could sanitize their hands. And then we made soap, we handmade soap, and all these things that were very important in the COVID epidemic. And they have kept their COVID down amazingly well, much better than we have. You're in lockdown again. I just got back to New York, and I mean, it's amazingly high here now too, higher than when I left. So it's been, we have had 7 of our staff did come down with COVID. We isolated them immediately. We traced them and did everything that we could. And we're also working with Pivot. And I should mention that Pivot is a health organization. And they do systems strengthening and many other things. And so we have combined forces. We're going to become a testing center. We have a PCR machine, and our reagents are coming, I think, this week, and we're going to be able to test all the people in the region. And that really helps for once you know whether somebody has COVID or not, you can really control it.
So, I mean, that is completely amazing. So not only you're trying to save the animals, save the forest, you're rolling with the punches. When something like this happens at Centre ValBio, that's creating the soap, doing the hand washing stations, making the masks, and now becoming a testing center. Like, that really just shows that you're where it's at. It's all happening at Centre ValBio there, and it's so impressive.
Thank you.
Well, the last thing.
It's our wonderful staff. I just want to put, we have just wonderful people that are working with us. And the villages are so cooperative and really helping out. So, nothing is done with 1 or 2 people. It takes a village, as they say.
Everybody. Well, they must feel safe to be at the height of their creativity and offer their solutions and feel empowered that their ideas can go through. And that's how such great things happen. Well, last, something so close to our heart and something that a lot of our staff got to be involved with, and that's your education. So just a little bit about how you guys are inspiring the next generation. You probably have kids who've grown up and have kids who went through a program a long time ago.
Most of the tourist guides have been through our education programs to start with. And many, yes. So what we're trying to do is work conservation into the curriculum, into the school curriculum. But what we were finding was that wasn't very hard for the on-road villages because it was. But when the off-road villages were totally ignored, and so we organized to set up a system of interns that would be from the teaching college. And these interns would go out to the villages and do conservation education for a whole year. And when we started this program, we weren't quite sure how to put the curriculum together. So that's when I called Oakland Zoo, because I know you do such a good job of conservation education. So we brought Dan and your whole team to Madagascar to teach the teachers, to teach the interns, and we just had such a good time together, learning, how to get conservation across to the kids. And science and conservation, of course, are closely related, and I hope always entwined. but the kids are so excited about this, really participatory learning. They've always had rote learning before, where they're just writing things down that the teacher put on the board. And now they're actually participating, doing skits, doing all kinds of innovative new things that, your team at Oakland taught us how to do. And it's very successful.
Yeah, that was, I think, Felicia, Benny, and Dan. Such
We are the initiators, yes.
love it. That's so wonderful. All right. So, of course, this brings us to our last 5 minutes where we are just going to ask you, there's 80, 100 people listening right now. It'll be recorded. Pat, what can we do to be part of this fun? How can we join the party?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, we'd love to have you joining the party. If you can come to Madagascar, of course, we welcome to have you there. If you can be an intern or just work on one of the research projects, like some of the Oakland Zoo keepers did, they actually participated in the research. Of course, donations are always welcome. If you then donating would help. But also keeping track of what we're doing on Facebook and signing up for our newsletter, because we're putting out a newsletter 3 or 4 times a year now. And then you can kind of sign up for the program that you're interested in, because it might be education, it might be health, it might be the actual research of the lemurs, but there's 15 species of those. So there's plenty of variety of things that you can actually participate in. And please sign up for the newsletter if you can, and then you can keep track of what we're doing.
And even following you on Facebook, I see opportunities to buy something that some of the money goes to help you, or finding out more about those tours. And somebody here, August, is asking, maybe you just said this, sorry, but are you taking volunteers or interns there? Can we move there?
Yeah, please do. And if it should be on the page, we're updating our website, of course.
All right.
You can also email me and just say, I want to be an intern. This is what my skills are. Because we want interns that are going to be useful. And so we want to make sure that, we know what you can do, and we can do it. We can organize it. Interns, 3 months or 6 months. It's not worth it to be an intern for only 1 month.
That makes sense.
But if you want to just participate in a project for a week, you can do that. But you're not really valuable yet until
you're going to take the time. I love it. And what about like our own purchasing habits? Is there anything that we might blindly be doing because we just didn't know it wasn't helpful? Or let's say I want to buy a sapphire earrings. Should I ask, and I do not, but should I ask the jeweler, like, is this sustainable, or can you verify this? Like, what about those kind of things?
Yeah, it's always good to do that, and to make sure that you're buying something that's legal. We had this problem with rosewood, and we had so much illegal rosewood leaving Madagascar, mostly to go to China, but some of it did come here. So we do have to we should be inquiring where these tropical products come from, and make sure that they're sustainable. That's very important.
Okay. Is there any last advice you might give anyone who's listening who might be an inspiring conservationist?
Well, conservation is hard work.
Yeah.
And that's hard work every day. But I mean, that's a very, very fulfilling. And it's something I think that more and more younger people are doing. And now finding also that there's a lot of retired people that are coming in to help. Yeah, and so that's important too, because they have other skills.
Oh yeah.
I think everybody should be thinking about conservation in ways that they can apply the skills they already have to making our world better. And especially in Madagascar, if you're an engineer or if you're an accountant, all those kinds of skills, Madagascar is far behind and really needs help. and it's not help I mean, we just work with the people to train them up and get them on the right track. They're smart, they're hardworking, and they just need training, and they love our enthusiasm because we're so excited to be in Madagascar and to be able to train them to do all these, to teach them and to work out on solving problems together. And it's great fun. It's always fun. Sometimes I think the local villagers, instead of instead of having television, they have us, because I have all these graduate students and undergraduate students and interns and things in there, and we just have a good time making Madagascar a better place.
Well, this Cocktails and Conservation is all about having fun while being inspired. So I want to ask everybody before we do one last toast for Pat. The button to donate is on their website. It's probably been in the chat. If you've been inspired at all, join one of those tours, or just donate for this lovely holiday season. And also there'll be a survey. So if you want to kind of give your voice to us improving these presentations, we'd love that too. Pat, when are you going to be in Oakland again? Madagascar first, then Oakland?
Yeah, I'd love to come. I'd really love to come. It's all up to COVID, isn't it? When's that vaccine coming? Yeah, it's a problem. But I would like to come sometime in the spring.
Well, once we're all safe, we'd love to have you. And a toast to you. And I hope you have a lovely, cozy night of catch-up sleep after your 15 hours of travel.
Thank you. Yes, I think I need a little bit of sleep.
All right.
But thank you for inviting me. It's been great fun, and let's all drink to the lemurs.
Drink to the lemurs. Toast to you, Pat. And good night, everyone. Have a lovely evening.